Hello, everyone. This is Governor Jeff Landry. Welcome again to Diner Days. Today, we've got a special Diner Days for you because instead of being on the road, we're actually in Baton Rouge in the governor's mansion. Why? Because we're trying to wrap up this year's session. We've done a lot of great things, and my first guest today is Representative Mike Johnson, not the U.S. Speaker.
I'm the original.
Mike, you're the original Mike Johnson. That's correct. And so this is actually where I eat every morning in Baton Rouge when I'm here at the mansion. And so this is a little bit of a treat for everyone out in Louisiana. We're not out at diners around the state, but we're here right in the Capitol, in the governor's mansion, in what they call the family dining room. So how about all of the great things that we've been doing? We know, Mike, that one of the main focuses on this year's session was insurance and legal reform, and you were a big part of trying to help us. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Mike Johnson. I'm from Pineville. Grew up there. Went to Louisiana College. Went to Pineville High School. Came here to Baton Rouge. Became a lawyer. Went back to Pineville and have been practicing for 42 years. Served in a lot of capacities as a volunteer, and supported a lot of campaigns. And then decided when I was 60 to run for office for the first time. And it has been the most rewarding thing for me, and to represent District 27, which is North Rapids and also Poland and Echo. Came in 2019, so I've seen a wide variation on things. Went through COVID, worked very closely with you when you were Attorney General, and now enjoying working with you as governor.
So you're in your second term, and you're also the Speaker Pro Tem to the House.
That's right.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And because you are a lawyer, and because you've done a multitude of inside the law practice, you've done some defense work as well.
Defense and plaintiff.
Defense and plaintiff.
And general practice.
And because you were there in the last term, which is when actually y'all engaged the insurance companies in looking at our legal system,
yes,
our civil legal system, and trying to determine things that we could do to adjust our legal system, to do legal reform in a way that would help insurance companies lower their overall costs, thereby lowering the rates for consumers out there, predominantly on the auto insurance side, is really what we focused on.
Yes.
You've seen it all.
Yes, sir. We've done some on property, and you've been a big part of that. We're starting to see some results of that. But we're paying the highest rates of anybody in the country for insurance. And as an attorney, I saw some of the reasons why. And you've signed some of the most significant tort reform. I think of it as rate reduction reform that we've had in 30 years. We did some stuff in 2019 and some in 2022, and we called it tort reform. But it was nothing like this. You put these bills and your signature put us in line with the majority of the country on some of the main laws that put them ahead of us on consumer-friendly rates as compared to us. And I appreciate your signature on the bills that you've signed, because they are going to make a difference. Some people don't say they're not going to. I believe they will make a difference, because we have the most claims. You really look at it like a business. We have more claims than anybody else by multiples, 2, 3, and 4 times as many for the same number of accidents. That can't help but have an effect on what our rates are here.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things that had frustrated me is I like to be data driven.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's easier, and in politics, everyone seems to like to want to pick a team. Oh, I'm either with the blue team or with the red team. And if I talk to someone on the blue team, then I can't be on the red team. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, I've always looked at this as a battle in the Capitol between insurance companies and lawyers, and the people who were stuck in the middle were our citizens.
Right.
And so that's why I really appreciate your help. And when you talk about those statistics, I think it's important for everyone to know what we found. We found that in this country, in this state, citizens in Louisiana don't have any more accidents than on average with the rest of the country.
No more fatalities either.
No more fatalities. We don't pay any more to repair our cars than do everyone else in the rest of the country. We actually, which was surprising to me, the injury severity, meaning that the severity of the injuries sustained in an automobile accident and the amount paid out on those claims was actually a little bit below. That was really shocking to me. I remember me and you first talking about that when we first came out. However, like you said, there is an outlier, and that is the number of small injury claims is double the national average.
Or more.
Or more. Or more. And so by looking at the data and saying, okay, what can we adjust in our legal system to help reduce the number of small injury claims? Because I think a lot of folks out there believe that those small injury claims may be frivolous.
Right.
That's the term that they use. And so we went throughout this entire session, and we passed a lot of major reform.
We did.
Let's talk about. We passed House Bill 450, the Housley presumption.
Yes, sir.
Right, and of course, for folks that are listening out there, they probably go, Housley presumption. And explain to them what that bill does.
The law is, and Housley was the name of a case, and it said that if you bring a lawsuit, you know, as any kind of thing, if you bring a lawsuit, it ought to be your duty to go prove that it was the other person's fault, that you were injured, that your damages are a certain amount. Housley changed that a little bit, and it said that if you were in an accident and you presented with an injury, that if you had not really had those complaints reported before, that it's presumed that they happened from the accident, which it may be the case some of the time, but it took away the burden of proving a major part of your claim. This bill reverses the Housley presumption, and it puts it fair across the board. It's also the way about 45 other states
do it. Yeah. Right. And it's shifted, in legal terms, we call it shifting the burden of proof.
Right.
And
it really doesn't shift it. It puts it where it's supposed to be.
That's correct. That's correct. So what had happened was, throughout a court case, the burden of proof was shifted in the wrong direction. In this instance, we shifted it back in the correct.
You were guilty until proven innocent instead of innocent until
proven guilty. Yeah. Right. And we believe, and I believe, I'm like you, I believe that absolutely will have an impact on the number of small injury claims.
Well, it'll have it not only on the lawsuits, but it'll have it on the claims, because lawyers will look at the case and realize what's going to be involved to have to prove it, and either take the claims or be reasonable in their settlement negotiation.
There you go. And then the other thing, I think, and I think most of the folks that are watching out there, listening out there, believe that there are too many people on our roadways that are driving around without insurance, and that's a problem. Because the one thing about insurance is it's a mandated market. The government says you have to buy it. You can't get on the road unless you got insurance, and you shouldn't get on the road unless you got insurance. But when you get on the road without insurance, and then you get injured, and then you want insurance to pay for that particular injury, that's wrong, because you're not playing by the rule.
Right. That's right.
And so and of course, the no pay, no play was actually first instituted under Governor Mike Foster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
But it had not been adjusted since that time. Tell us what we did this year.
Before, if you get in an accident and you don't have insurance, you can still bring a lawsuit, but the first $15,000 of your recovery, you couldn't get. This bill shifted it to $100,000 on property and bodily injury.
Which I got to tell you was something that was brought to my attention as we were working through this pre-session, and Brian Glorioso actually came up with this idea. At first, I was thinking maybe we should cap the amount that they could get, but when we looked at it, we said, no, maybe the best thing that we can do is to raise that recovery limit, right, that amount, to the $100,000 mark, which is where small injury claims.
Most of them are
that's right. So an injury is a small injury claim when it's below $100,000. It's a major claim when it's above. So if we use $100,000 as the line in the sand, we believe that's going to impact.
Right. We think so, because I think one thing, I hope it encourages people to get insurance, which will help the rates.
That's correct.
But it also kind of levels the playing field from the standpoint, well, if you don't have insurance, you shouldn't be able to sue.
Well, in the report, the insurance finding report in 2020 that you had done said that if we did that could equate to up to 2% savings, which is real savings. So we've done the seatbelt, we did the jury threshold, we did the direct evidence. This uninsured motorist recovery says a 2%. We're starting to stack up the percentage of savings that insurance companies said we could receive if we adjusted and did legal reform just like that. And then we did a couple of other additional things, right? We did comparative fault. which was something.
That may be the single most important, significant bill that we passed in 30 years. And it puts us in line with about 37 other states.
So what you're telling me is, as we go through these, and I'll let you explain comparative fault real quick, but as we've been having this discussion, everything that we've signed is starting to put us in line with the majority of the states around us, correct?
Lower rates.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. Okay, so explain to us a little bit quickly about comparative fault.
Right now, you could be 1%, you could be 99% at fault, get in an accident, and sue somebody and recover. Doesn't seem really fair.
Right.
If I bump into you in the right here in the hallway, and it's really me, but you might have had a little.
Just the fact that I was in the hallway, might be 1% my fault. So why am I going to want to be somewhere else?
Sometimes people would take cases where there's a small percentage of actual fault on the defendant, but they know that it's still going to cost the same amount to defend it. It's going to cost the same risk of getting a big judgment. So they'd settle a lot of those cases, or they would try them and hope to dissuade a jury. This puts us in line that says if you're 51% at fault yourself, you can't sue someone else. If you're the one that's mainly, you're the majority of fault is upon you, then you can't sue me. That will greatly reduce some of the frivolous claims. And by frivolous, I don't mean they don't have some merit, but that they're not clear-cut fault cases. And it'll put us in line with what other states are doing. Now think about that. You go from being able to prove 1% and get a verdict to being able to, you have to prove that you weren't 51% at fault.
Yeah.
It takes some of the extortion value, which is that what it is sometimes. And I've been on both sides of this.
Right.
I'm going to file a suit against you. It's going to have value just from the cost of defense right off the bat.
Right.
It takes some of that away, and it puts us in line with a majority of the states in the country.
So again, each one of the measures that we talked about,
yes, sir,
as you explained them, each one has been targeted in trying to reduce that double the national average of small injury claims, which I agree with you. I think that these things are monumental. The one thing that we do know, that's undisputed, is that this package that we've signed, and we're not finished yet.
No, you got much more.
We've got a couple more that we've signed and a couple more that we're hoping to sign. And even where we are today represents the largest legal reform done in the state of Louisiana in the history of the state by any governor.
I don't think there's any question about it.
I mean, we've done more in
Those
14 months against it. Right.
Say that.
That's right. Then we've done it. Some governors have done it 2 terms.
Yes.
And then for the commercial truckers out there, which has been, they really have had a tough time getting insurance. The loggers, our ag businesses, the sand and gravel folks. But we know that if you put a dash cam, a camera that records that truck driver's movements, that certainly aids in helping to ensure that any accident that is or claim that's made against that truck, it's easier to determine whether or not it's real or
Absolutely.
not. And so we had truckers that would put this information out there, these dash cams and rear cams, and they had to bear the cost for putting the camera up, and they were getting no credit.
Right.
And so we went in and what did we do?
Well, we gave them a credit for the cost of those cameras to put on their vehicles. And the insurance rate has to give them, I believe it's 5% reduction on their cameras. You take the cameras and combine it with modified comparative fault, where now you can see, maybe I was 20% at fault, but now it's not going to apply. And you've got the trucker should be very happy about those two. Above all else, they ought to be happy about those two.
And so every one of these things has been built in order to save insurance companies money. And ultimately, we want those savings to be brought down to the consumer.
Yes. And we also want to protect individuals because a lot of people can't carry big coverage.
Right.
And they're personally exposed. This protects them too.
However, my big issue, as you know, when we came into this, is that we've done some things before where we've had some promise from the insurance companies that if we did these things, it would save them money, and then those savings didn't trickle down to the consumers, and that's always been a problem. And I started looking around. This was something that I did as I was looking at the data, and I said, well, why is it different Why? When I looked at the pure loss ratios in states like Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas and Texas and Louisiana and Florida, I saw that our loss ratio, our pure loss ratio, was on par with states like Alabama, Mississippi, and Arkansas, and actually better than Florida and Texas. And yet our rates were double what all of those other states were. And I got to thinking, I was like, what is the problem here? How do we ensure, because I think it's important, I think that we do all of these great things, because that it wasn't easy for us to do. I think people need to understand that it was not easy to muscle those bills through and to be able to rein those lawyers in. That's not an easy task of. How would we ensure that we could get these cost savings on them? And we ended up working through a bill because we recognized that in 2008, the insurance department's power to properly regulate the insurance market to ensure that they weren't charging us way more. They weren't using the litigation environment as an excuse to greatly or increase the amount of premiums was taken away from them. And so we worked through a number of bills. We ended up with a bill that we ended up signing, which is the balance that I caused, right? And that balance said, look, the insurance department now has the power. It's not a mandated power. They don't have to use the power, right? It's discretionary.
Yes, sir. That's part of his authority.
That's right.
And his discretion, and it's why it's important that we hire the right guy, vote the right guy that we trust to do that.
And look, you're right. I mean, like some people have said, and I think we're going to have Senator Royce Duplessis on here talking about property insurance next. Royce said, listen, when you want to put, if you really want to put Louisiana on par with the rest of the states, like we just talked about, we talked about having our tort law in conformity with a lot of the other states out there. A lot of those other states don't elect an insurance commissioner. They appoint one. Royce has a bill to do that. It actually got out of committee. Personally, it doesn't matter to me. I'm like you. We just either want to hire or elect the right person. But we also want to make sure that that person has the power to be able to regulate the industry in a way that's fair for the consumers as well. And so by doing all of those things, I think we've got a good package.
We certainly got one that directs it from two different points, not just the torts, but also the administration of the commission.
Yeah, and
insurance company.
And lastly, I think this is important. I had this nice graph right here, which I think people should see. I've been taking it around with me, which goes to show you like the average price per year that auto insurance rates increased on Louisiana consumers from 1990 to 2008 was about $33. Now, you got to remember, that is even after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. Then from 2008 to 2023, it was $110 average on a yearly basis, so 3 times. And if you look at it, this line here is when we took that power. Now we got a new line, which is where we're giving the power back. And I got to tell you, Mike, I can't thank y'all enough, really, because it was not an easy task of being able to balance it. Because again, people want us to choose a team.
Right.
And the only team me and you really choose.
They don't elect us. The people do.
That's correct.
I'll tell you, it started, you may not remember, in this room
At the end of session last year. And you said, can't you guys get together? And Representative Chairman Furman, Chairman Kirk, Talbot, and others that deal with insurance in the House and Senate. And we held hearings every month because you wanted data.
That's right.
And we asked the insurance companies to come to the table. We asked the plaintiff's attorneys to come to the table. We asked the people to come together. We got that information, and we came up with about 15 or more bills. And then you invited us over here, and we sat around I guess that's the big table, and we went over every one of those bills. And you said, let me look at all of them. Remember, I gave them to you before. And you told us, without any more discussion, I think I can support these bills. And I never would have thought we could have got modified comparative fault. We got behind it and got it passed, and we've done some other stuff. You've talked about the distracted driver.
Yes, which is important. That is big. That is important. It really is. And I got to tell you, I got to thank you, because a lot of Republicans out there, they did not like it, but I can tell you, they do it in Texas. They do it in all the other states where insurance costs are much lower. Right. And I'll tell you, the most dangerous thing you could put in your child's hands is a cell phone while they're driving. I'm telling you, I saw someone the other day. I saw some some lady over there was putting makeup on, drinking coffee, and texting on the phone while she was driving. I was like, oh my word. And look, it's not to pick on ladies out there. I just don't think I'd see many men out there doing makeup at the same time. But I promise you, there are men out there on the phone, drinking coffee, texting, driving.
I'll be honest, Governor, I'm probably guilty of it sometimes.
Well,
This will make me more.
and it will. It'll make you more conscientious, and that's what they did in Texas, and it has helped out in Texas as well. And so, again, I just want to tell you, we haven't finished. We've got another 10 days left for the session.
Yes.
I'm hoping that we're going to get a couple of other good bills
You
out there.
supported the advertising bill. And
I did.
It's in Senate Finance. I hope
Yeah.
they'll move. I mean, Senate Jude. I hope they'll move it up. It passed overwhelmingly in the House. And, you made it clear that was one you wanted to see pass. So
That's right. I've been waiting for that bill for weeks now.
we did our part over now.
Weeks now.
But you've been also, I'm looking at bills with fair claims handling. That's you're going to sign that one. I think it's coming up. That's dealing with that. You have been supportive of what we tried to do on the auto side and on the property side. So I don't know about the red team and the blue team, but you definitely have been behind some bills that will make a difference. And it may, I don't know if they'll recognize it right away. That's the thing that's a little frustrating. It takes a little time for this stuff to go into effect. But we put some pieces together that put us in line with states that have lower insurance, that even the insurance companies have told us will make a difference. And that's really all we can do. And from this point on, hopefully we'll see the results. But I appreciate you not only getting behind these bills, but being willing to meet with us, talk with us, work with us. We went back and forth. So I appreciate the spirit in which you've done this and that you've signed these bills. And I hope we make a difference. That's certainly, I think, the intent of the House and the Senate members, and just appreciate you signing them without delay. I mean, you didn't let them sit there.
No, we signed right. And I want to thank you, because we've now had a vast majority of out of the 10 things on the insurance finding report, everyone that had a numerical percentage savings on it, we passed, and those that have measurable and small savings, we've done. The others seem to be negligible savings, but we've got a lot to work with. We hope that we see some relief for our citizens out there. I'm like you. I'm confident we will. I was talking to the CNA Insurance today. I met with the State Farm agent CEO I think last week. And so we continue to engage with our insurance companies out here to find ways to explain to them why the things that we've done, we hope that they pass those savings on to our consumers. And I would just say, how about that? Unbelievable. And so, look, I want to thank you for being here at Dinah's Days today, and for all of the work that you and Brian Glorioso and many of the others have done. It's been a great day. We've got a lot of great things happening in Louisiana and more to come.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we're back at Dinah's Days, and we actually just had Representative Mike Johnson, and we were talking about all the great things that we did this session. And of course, one of the things that's on everyone's mind is property insurance. And I know that both of y'all have worked on property and trying to lower property insurance, both of y'all from the New Orleans area. So we were with Senator Kirk Talbot and Senator Royce Duplessis. And now, Senator Talbot, his fame is he's Lucky Dog, right?
That's right.
Yeah, give us a little self-promotion. Tell us about how.
So Lucky Dogs was started in 1948 by two brothers, the Lloyd Cano brothers in New Orleans, French hot dog carts in the French Quarter. My dad, who's from Mississippi, moved to New Orleans, saw that it for sale in the classified section of the Times-Picayune and bought it. And we've had it ever since. And from 1970, the year before I was born, year after I was born. So we've had it my entire life. And now, my brother and I run it. My dad's deceased. So it is, a part of New Orleans, a part of the culture, a part of the, of all that. And we're proud to own it, and just a small family business.
And people love it because, after a late night on New Orleans,
right.
You need a Lucky Dog.
They taste better after you've been drinking. There's no doubt about that.
And Senator Duplessis, from New Orleans.
Born and raised in New Orleans. Proud of where I'm from. My dad was a school teacher. My mother worked for the Postal Service. So I didn't grow up in or around politics, but always believed in public service in some form or fashion. And I went to Howard University School of Law, where the once Dean Charles Hamilton Houston said a lawyer is either a social engineer or a parasite on society. So I ended up going the private law route, but ultimately got pulled into policy making through Chief Justice Johnson. She had me come work for her, and that actually exposed me to coming up to Baton Rouge and working on a lot of policies for her. And fate just kind of lined up in a way where a seat came open in 2017, 2018 in State House. And, that was 8 years ago now. So now I'm up here trying to fight on behalf of the people of the district that I'm honored to represent.
Well, and Baton Rouge, as does DC, can always be a partisan fight. Some different ideologies on both sides. I used to like to say, well, can we just work on the things we can agree on,
Right.
and then we can fight over the things we disagree on and see where
Right.
that ends up.
Right.
But one of the things that brings people together certainly is here in Louisiana, that's a common theme. I can't find anybody that believes that their insurance prices on their homes are actually low.
Right. No.
That everyone is
Right.
is struggling, especially if you live along the I-10 corridor. But it also seems to be a problem, not only in Louisiana, but around the country as a whole. I've traveled around the country and visited with other different governors in other places, and it seems that property insurance has its challenges. So people that are home, which is the American dream. You buy a home, you want to be well insured. If a natural disaster strikes, you want to be able to get back in your home as quickly as possible. But we have been unique here in Louisiana because of the number of storms. And of course, both of y'all being from New Orleans, and both of y'all were in New Orleans when Hurricane Katrina struck.
Right.
And so you've seen the evolution of natural disasters affect Louisiana and the New Orleans metropolitan area. And both of y'all have been very vocal in trying to find ways to lower those costs, especially through the fortified roof program. So I don't know who wants to start.
Doesn't matter.
Look, I'll start just by saying that I was always sort of intimidated by the insurance issue, in that it seems so mysterious, right? It's like you have these actuarials who sit behind a desk and they come up with these numbers, but it's only when people are in crisis when they have to confront the challenges of insurance, right? So it's like a double whammy where the average consumer, they don't know everything that goes into why they got these premiums and why they have to pay certain deductibles. So when I got to be appointed to Senate Insurance, I was like, well, I have a lot to learn. But the good thing about being on this committee is no matter what neighborhood I go to, no matter what part of the state I'm in, this issue, even though we still disagree on a lot of things philosophically, it really does transcend party. I've found this to be one of the few areas in that building where we can just talk about the issue and the votes don't always go down party lines. So I think that's where the real opportunity is for us to try to find some solution, even if there's some philosophical disagreements on how we approach it. And it's one of those areas that there's no more of an important issue, in my opinion, in the state right now.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think everyone who is watching and listening out there should know that both of y'all sit on the Insurance Commission, the Senate Insurance Committee, and Senator Talbot is the chair of that committee. And he divulged himself into insurance for a long, long time, so he probably understands it better than me and you.
He thinks he does, but I caught up to him. All right, and now I figured it out. Right.
That's why I have him sitting to my left, right here. I can whisper.
He's always trying to talk to me. He's trying to distract me in committee because he wants me to not be able to pay attention.
He likes to keep the knowledge himself. Right. Well, I know that Kirk had spoken to me a number of times about the fortified roof program. It's a program that seemed to have gained some traction in some of the other coastal states. Alabama seems to have done it, I guess, better than anyone else. Of course, their coast is not quite.
Right. They have Baldwin and Mobile County, so they don't have a big coastline, but they have more fortified roofs than anybody in the state, in the country. They're over 50,000. My goal is, I'm sure all of us, we want to be number one. We want to have more fortified roofs than anybody. If you look at Hurricane Sally, their most recent hurricane, they did a very in-depth study on how that impacted fortified roofs, and they didn't lose, I don't think, a single shingle from these houses. And they had a fortified roof, and then houses in the same subdivision that did not have fortified roofs, they all had blue tarps on their roofs, which means they had big claims, they were displaced, they had all these problems, lawsuits, all that stuff. And here's the fortified roof home just sitting there. Just like in Grand Isle, after the last storm we had, you saw some houses there with their roofs on. You're like, how can that be? That's why. It's because of fortified roofs.
Maybe again, one of the things that happens, and I got to catch myself too, because the three of us talk about these like it's normal. It's in our vernacular. Why don't you just briefly explain kind of the whole concept behind a fortified roof?
So basically, a fortified roof is a roof that uses ring shank nails instead of regular nails on their shingles. So, and they use more nails per shingle. If you've ever hammered a ring shank nail into a piece of plywood, you can't get it out. It's got little rings on it like that. You literally have to take a crowbar or a little cutting saw and cut that nail off. So that keeps that shingle from coming off. There's also another layer between like the plywood and the shingles to seal it in from water. Then they strapped the roof to the rafter. So they do all these different things.
Hurricane clips.
Hurricane clips. And you would think that would be real expensive, right? And that was the first thing I looked into. Like, this has got to cost a fortune. If you were building a home from scratch, it's 10 to 15% more than a regular roof. So it's not that much more in expense to have a fortified roof.
And there are insurance companies, I know that, and they vary differently as to the amount of discount they'll give folks if they implement a fortified roof on their structure.
Right. And so when you get a fortified roof, you'll get a certificate from the IBHS, and that's this nonpartisan group that monitors that and kind of set the standard for what a fortified roof is. That's what the insurance company wants to see. If you go on the Department of Insurance website, they have all the different companies that offer discounts, and some are 3, 5, 7%, some are 30, 25%. It all depends on however that company, deems necessary for them. But on average in Alabama, they're receiving about a 20% discount. We're receiving about a 22% discount on. Now that also is some mitigation efforts. So Royce and I talked about maybe doing a study next year to see, like, drill down a little bit deeper. But the people that I've talked to, friends, family that have gotten it, it definitely saves them money. Plus, your home is worth more and your roof won't blow off when you have a storm. So you save all the money in the aggravation of that next time we have a storm, which obviously we will have at some point.
Well, I know Senator Duplessis, and I kind of like the bill in concept. He was trying to go out there and kind of set the amount that the discount was given based upon the fortified roof. I know the bill didn't quite make it through. And again, I can see both sides of it. The one thing I will tell you, though, is that Kirk's right. I had a brother-in-law who called me up one day, and he was furious because he put a fortified roof on his house in New Orleans. And he said, I thought you told me you would give me 20%. I'm only getting 3%.
Right.
So I want you to know, I called Kirk.
There you go.
And Kirk said, don't worry, tell his agent to go to work.
That's right.
And to actually look at, I didn't know the insurance department had a site. He went to it. It was kind of difficult for him to navigate.
Yeah.
But here's my point. I'm getting ready to put on our website a list of the 10 insurance companies that they give the greatest discounts on fortified roofs. I don't care what if we talk about competition in the insurance market.
Right.
If you're giving 3%,
Right.
you're not going to make the governor's list.
Right.
And people
No.
out there are going to know the companies that are giving the most.
Competition is the best way.
Yeah.
I just want to build on that a little bit. So we got to keep in mind, 25% is the saturation number that we need to get, the number of roofs that we have to fortify to see the significant decreases. We got to get there.
That's cool. Yeah. And let me just,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to go and I'm going to let you expound on it, but I want to put it in a little more layman's term. What you're saying is that in a geographical area, right? In a geographical area, depending upon like a town or a village or city in New York,
Or
is
a
a pretty big
parish,
area. Yeah. Or a parish is a great one. That once 20 or 25% of the structures in that area have a fortified roof, what happens?
Then we should see a dramatic decrease. We should see some substantive decreases in overall premiums for everybody. For everybody. So
Which is why the both of y'all are so passionate about this.
Right. And that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get more roofs fortified. The question is, how do we get there the quickest?
Right. And when you have, so let's say you're an insurance company and you have a portfolio, you have, let's say 1,000 homes in your portfolio, and you have 30, 25% of those homes with a fortified roof. They know those roofs are okay. They're not going to blow off. So they might take a risk on a home, maybe in Homa or Terrebonne Parish, that may be a little more risky because they know they're safe here. So it kind of a tide that lifts all boats, and it helps everyone around the state because that will allow them to, maybe they'll write some more policies up in North Louisiana where they normally wouldn't do that. It just gives them that safety net of, they know those roofs are fine, so I can spread some money somewhere else.
Well, let's talk about, I don't know if you could hit real quickly a couple of highlighted bills that certainly y'all believe are going to make it to my desk that impact property
Well,
insurance?
one would be mine on. So right now we have a $10,000 grant.
You know what he's doing right here. Right? He's politicking for his own bill. Is that what it
Shameless
is?
self-promotion. Shameless.
Not a problem.
So right now we have the grant program, right?
Right.
You apply for a $10,000 grant, and we fund that with money from the state. And every time we open up that grant process, it sells out like a Taylor Swift concert. And you got to be lucky enough to get in the lottery. So what I did was, so look, why don't we do a $10,000 tax credit, non-refundable, that we can roll over for 3 years. If you have the money, front the money yourself, get the roof on, and take the tax credit. Now, that's, we have a $10 million cap on that. I would like to see it a little higher, but I understand times are tough. But I think that is a way to really blow open the fortified roof program. Chance Henry's bill that we voted for yesterday on the House floor, House Bill 441, is going to assess the insurance industry, raise their fees to pay for the fortified roof program, not the state anymore. And that's going to be about $30 million a year, which is more than we're spending now. So I think between those two things, and obviously we can raise this cap as we see fit, will really blow the door open. And the insurance industry should pay for fortified roofs. It benefits them. And that's what they do in Alabama, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, well, and that's a great point. Look, I think that now, based upon that bill coming to my desk and a couple of these others, I think it's now incumbent upon us to try to get that information out to people. One of the things that just shocked me the other day, I got to take Kirk. I'm in New Iberia, right? I'm in Sharon's hometown, the neighboring parish where I grew up in, where JT was born, where we raised, on the coast. A parish that absolutely is impacted by hurricanes. And I've got like 250 people that I'm speaking to. And I ask them, how many of you heard of a fortified roof program? And I'm telling you, like maybe 10 people. And right. And you see, I did this. I'm like shaking my head, because if you think about the things that we just put in place from an incentive standpoint, the deduction that some people could take, and then you factor in the discount that the insurance company will give you, then all of a sudden, maybe, what? We're gonna make sure we're gonna be watching that.
But I got to speak to that. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
That they're gonna give you. Then what happens then is that starts to pay for, and overwhelmingly pay for, and there's a return on that investment by people out there. But you wanted to say?
Yeah, I want to just jump in and just talk about the pace that we're going. The studies, the numbers are saying that at our rate, we won't get to 25% until about 2060. That's what the numbers are saying. We got the $30 million to sustain the program, to fund it, is going to help, because we know it'll be around, and we're going to continue to improve it to make sure the people who need it the most actually can get it as we make it more accessible. But the concern that I have in terms of my bill not making it through, and again, I understand there are free market principles that we have to navigate, but if you have someone out there who gets a 3% discount or no discount at all, they're going to tell their neighbor, and their neighbor's going to tell their neighbor. And if we don't create the narrative that people know they're going to get a discount, we were sitting in the lobby just beforehand, and I showed Kirk an email for a constituent who emailed me, said they contacted their agent. They said, tell me about the fortified roof program. Will I get a discount? Took the agent maybe a week or two, that the customer had to follow up with the agent, said, what's the deal? Agent said, you're not going to get a discount. You're not going to get a discount. Now, by law, they're supposed to get an actuarial justified discount. But we know that there are instances where people aren't getting the discount. And my concern is that for every person that doesn't get a substantial discount, they're going to tell their neighbor, and the narrative will be, it's not worth it. Alabama, the successful program, they have a 20% benchmark. So that benchmark says, all right, this is the goal. And it was done administratively through the Department of Insurance. They didn't mandate it by law, but they say we have a 20% benchmark that if you can't give 20%, you at least have to explain why. So I tried to amend my bill this year to do that, just to have something to work with, and it still wasn't successful. So my hope is that—
But there's nothing that prevents our current insurance department to promulgating something.
No, it's not. But he's not going to do it, because he just refuses to do anything like that, and that's the issue that I have.
Well, here's what I tell you. I tell you, this is a great discussion in that, because again, I could see both sides, and I know where Kirk's coming from too. And the thing I didn't want to do was set a benchmark and then just have everybody go to 20 and not be able to have somebody go above.
I think that the commissioner will ultimately promulgate rules to do like what Alabama says with a benchmark. I mean, Alabama's
Certainly after this podcast, he
I would
might.
think so. Yeah, I mean, I think he would be in favor of that. And it isn't an apples to apples comparison. We are on life support with our homeowners insurance industry. We're just getting a heartbeat back and getting off the table. It's easier for the companies in Alabama. They only have 2 coastal parishes. They don't have a large propensity of where storms hit. They didn't have an industry that was wrecked with 4 storms in 18 months. So it was easier for them to do that. We're getting there now. We've had some years without storms. Hopefully, God willing, we'll have another one. But it's time for them to step up. And I think we're all on the same page there.
Well, I got to tell you, I want to thank both of y'all for your time today. I want to thank y'all for continuing to work towards the betterment of lowering property insurance for the people of this state. It shows the people of this state that, it's not always just a red or a blue team. We actually after helping people out there, and we're looking for solutions. And look, I talked to Kirk, and I think one of the things that I would challenge the 3 of us to do, and any of the legislators or even those in the insurance department that are watching this, is to work with us over the course of the next year as we go into the next session. And let's try to really focus on property insurance. We did a lot on auto. We did a lot on auto. We did some things on property last year. But, I talked to Kirk. I said, maybe we should look at what Citizens does for discounting fortified roofs. Is something that I want to engage in and look further, because I think if we could give a deep discount on that, then that rolls them over. That'll make people have the ability to roll off of Citizens rather than stay on Citizens. Citizens is the insurance of last resort. And I don't know about y'all too, but I had to get insurance from Citizens when I was in Iberia. But again, I am going to make it. Here's a commitment that I will tell both of you. We are going through my comms department to make a concerted effort of being able to put out information so that we are informing through PSAs and whatnot that people to understand that there is a fortified roof program out there. There is a way that they can lower their insurance. We're going to call out the insurance companies that are giving the highest discounts out there. Right. And we want to make sure that they actually give that discount. And I think that if we give that year and we all commit to working at it, I think we're going to find some solutions in the next session.
I think so. And look, when you talk about what we're showing the industry is when we have our building codes now, which are basically almost to the fortified roof level. A lot of states don't even have a building code. I don't think Alabama has one. We're showing the insurance industry globally. We know we have a problem. Right? We know we have a large coastline. We know we have a propensity for storms, and we're doing something about it. We're dedicating a funding source for the fortified roof program. We're doing the things that you helped us with and Royce did last year. But we're not just sitting there saying, come help us and give us money. We're trying to control the things we can control, and I think we're doing a good job with that.
Look, I do. I want to again thank both of y'all for being part of Diamond Days today. We, again, we're doing it from the governor's mansion, which is something unusual, but we had to do it because if not, I couldn't have got y'all here, because y'all got to go out and vote, and I know y'all got to move. But look, in conclusion, we want folks to be able to have input. We want you to know we encourage you to visit our website at gov.louisiana.gov. Give us some input on the things that we talked about or things that you want to hear us talk about. We always, if y'all just stick around real quick, we're going to do this. We always do a little lagniappe, right? Just a little something extra about what's going on. And we want to give a big shout out to LSU Shreveport's baseball. Plattsburgh, you heard it? That's right. 59 broke the record. I hear they going to the White House. Okay. That's my understanding. That Speaker of the House, House of Representatives in D.C., Mike Johnson, because I had just like the other Mike Johnson here, has gotten him an invite to the White House. And then, of course, LSU baseball. Right. Kirk, you're not LSU alum.
No, my team lost last weekend, so I am out.
Oh, you out?
Yes.
You out? Oh,
yes. So now I'm on the LSU bandwagon. Ole Miss.
Oh. See that we weren't supposed to see it. Yes. I know. It's okay, though.
We can edit that part.
We can edit that part. No. We won't. I know. But listen, Texas went down.
A lot of big teams went down.
LSU was struggling for a while, so we got our fingers crossed. I'm getting ready. I'm betting. I'm going to bet Governor Patrick Morrisey. I don't know if you know that, but the governor of West Virginia used to be the Attorney General of West Virginia. He served with me when I was the AG, and I called him yesterday, and I bet him. I'm betting that LSU is going to win this Super Regionals, and if LSU wins, Morrisey owes me a big old steak dinner, and if LSU loses, I'm going to send him a big sack of crawfish. How about that? You know,
All right,
whatever.
go. Sounds
Or,
good.
and some ball shrimp. But anyhow, again, want to thank y'all. Want to thank everyone for
Thank
tuning
you.
in to Diner Days, and really do appreciate it. Got great things going on here in Louisiana. Thank y'all so very
Thank you,
much.
Governor.
All right. Thank you, Governor.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.